After a terrible car accident, I called my dad from the ER and asked him to pick me up. He texted back, "At lunch with your stepmom. Can't just leave. Call an Uber." I just replied, "Okay," not realizing those 11 words would become the text that blew up our family. Cost him a $15 million deal, his company, his spotless reputation, and the daughter who'd spent 5 years quietly building his empire while he took credit for every single brick. If you were a judge, what would you call it? A crime, neglect, or just another kind of emotional abandonment that the law can't touch? I didn't get to answer that as a judge. I answered it as the girl lying in a mangled car, ribs broken, lung punctured, watching my phone light up with a reply that basically said, his appetizer mattered more than my life. Hey everyone, I'm Caroline, 28, and today I'm going to tell you how that one accident peeled back every lie in my family. How a father's choice at a restaurant table turned into a public downfall at a Four Seasons gala, and how sometimes justice doesn't come from courtrooms at all. It comes from boardrooms, broken contracts, and hundreds of witnesses watching the truth finally explode. The Irwin Holdings Tower cuts into Seattle's skyline like a glass needle. 42 floors of steel, ambition, and legacy built on my grandfather's brilliance, my mother's designs, and my sweat. On that Thursday night, November 13th, I was in my corner office on the 34th floor, city lights smudged by tired eyes, reviewing the final blueprints for our Harbor District crown jewel, the Waterfront Tower project. It was a $15 million architectural innovation that would reshape the harbor, the biggest deal in company history. And on paper, my father, Tyler Irwin, was the visionary behind it. In reality, the visionary was his daughter, sitting alone at 10 p.m. with cold coffee and a laptop full of files only she knew how to navigate. A framed photo on my desk caught the lamplight, me between mom and dad at my college graduation, 5 years before cancer stole her and before Tyler remarried Charlotte, a woman whose emergencies always somehow landed on days when I needed him most. My phone buzzed, his name popping up with that fake warmth he saved for clients. "Caroline, sweetheart," he started, "about your birthday dinner tomorrow?" I didn't need him to finish. "Let me guess," I said flatly. "Charlotte has another crisis." He sighed like a martyr. "She's struggling with the penthouse renovation delays. You understand, don't you? We'll reschedule." Third time he'd canceled this year. Seventh time he'd skipped something important for her since the wedding. "Of course, Dad. Charlotte needs you," I said, keeping the tremor out of my voice. Through the office glass, I watched cleaners vacuum the hallway, quietly moving around the same executive floor where my father showcased my designs as family collaboration, while Charlotte whispered about how I was just a nepotism hire who should be replaced with fresh blood. I turned back to my screen and entered my private encryption password, the date of my mom's death, 0417, a date Tyler had actually forgotten 2 years ago. In 36 hours, these files were supposed to lock in the waterfront contract and cement Irwin Holdings as untouchable. I had no idea that in 36 hours I'd be strapped to a gurney fighting for air and watching the man I'd been killing myself for choose lunch instead of me. The next morning, November 14th, I reached the office before sunrise. An email from Tyler was waiting. A formal note to the Waterfront Investment Group, CC'd to the entire board, stating in corporate language that Caroline Irwin serves as lead architect for the waterfront project. Her innovative designs and technical expertise are the cornerstone of our proposal. All final approvals must go through her. I screenshotted it immediately. Marcus Coleman, our legal partner and my unofficial guardian angel, had been telling me for months. "Document everything, Caroline. Your father's memory gets very flexible when Charlotte's whispering in his ear." My platinum security badge glinted under the fluorescent lights as I swiped into the server room. Only 3 badges had that clearance: the CFO's, Tyler's, and mine. Funny how the person Charlotte called just the boss's daughter was the same person who controlled every critical technical lever. The board meeting was predictable theater. Tyler stood in front of the projector, walking them through my stress tests, sustainability models, wind load calculations, and structural innovations like he personally stayed up all night coding them. I sat near the back, the quiet, supportive daughter geese, while they praised his brilliance. "Brilliant work, Tyler," said Harrison Wells, our biggest investor. "This is why Irwin Holdings dominates the field." Charlotte, in her designer suit, squeezed my father's hand and added, "My husband's dedication to excellence is unmatched, though I still think some fresh perspectives from that firm in Portland would be wise." She gave me a little smile that translated to, "You're disposable." I didn't react. I just noted the time, the date, the exact phrasing. More receipts for a future I was starting to suspect I might need. After the meeting, Marcus intercepted me by the elevators and dragged me to the empty cafeteria. "We need to talk about your position after this deal," he said, sliding a USB drive across the table. On it, every email crediting me, every board note naming me lead architect, every internal message referencing my role. "Charlotte's already talking to a headhunter in Portland," he said, showing me emails I wasn't supposed to see. "Senior architect, immediate start. Current position holder will be transitioned out post-signing." My stomach dropped. While my father paraded me around as the future of the company, Charlotte was quietly shopping for my replacement. "They can't push me out before the contract is signed," I said. "But after?" Marcus asked gently. "What leverage do you have once those files are delivered?" The answer echoed in my chest like an empty elevator shaft. "None, unless something catastrophic changed before then." November 15th dawned with gray rain and that specific Seattle heaviness that makes the whole city feel waterlogged. I loaded the waterfront documents into my passenger seat, buckled in, and started the drive up I-5. My phone buzzed at a red light, a text from Tyler reminding me about the gala at the Four Seasons the next night at 8 p.m. "Dress appropriately, technical support only, don't overshadow Charlotte's moment," he wrote. So the woman who had never drawn a single line in CAD would be the face of the project I had bled myself dry for. I typed one word back. Understood. There were also 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Probably some recruiter Charlotte had sicked on me, trying to shuffle me out quietly before the storm hit. I erased the voicemails without listening. As I merged onto I-5, the rain thickened into sheets, wipers smearing more than clearing. Tyler called via Bluetooth. "Caroline, confirm the server passwords are updated. Clients want one last review before tomorrow." "Already done," I said, eyes on the brake lights in front of me. Only my badge can access final files until the presentation. Good. Charlotte's nervous about tomorrow. Make sure everything's perfect." Of course, she was nervous. Her entire performance depended on work she didn't understand. "Dad," I asked suddenly, "after the contract is signed, what happens to me?" The pause told me everything. "We'll discuss your future after the gala," he said and hung up. 5 seconds later, the 18-wheeler in the lane ahead of me lost control. One moment, it was upright. The next, the trailer jackknifed across lanes like a steel blade. Headlights, horn, rain, white noise. Time shattered. I remember counting the rivets on the side of the trailer, hearing the crack of my ribs like dry twigs snapping, watching the waterfront documents explode into confetti as the car spun. 1 rotation. Glass everywhere. 2nd rotation. My chest caving. 3rd, silence, and then the awful, wet rattle in my lungs. When we stopped, I was sideways, the world crooked, rain pouring through a shattered window, blood hot and sticky on my face. My left arm lay at a wrong angle. Every breath felt like swallowing razor blades. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" A woman's face appeared framed by twisted metal, rain dripping from her hat brim. Her badge read, Hayes. "Don't move. Fire's coming to cut you out. You're going to be okay." "Can't breathe," I forced out. "You're doing great," she said, taking my good hand. "What's your name?" "Caroline Irwin." "Is there someone we can call? Family?" I gave her my father's number, the one he always answered. She hit dial. It rang and went to voicemail. She left a message explaining I'd been in a serious accident and was headed to Harborview Trauma. No response. 20 minutes later, after metal cutting, sirens, and agonizing extraction, I was in an ambulance with a chest tube, oxygen mask, and a paramedic murmuring about 3 broken ribs, possible punctured lung, internal bleeding likely. Officer Hayes climbed in beside me and tried again, this time using his private cell. Still nothing. Probably in a meeting, the nurse said kindly when we reached the ER. It was 11:47 a.m. Try texting, I whispered. Hayes typed a simple message from my phone. Dad, I'm in the ER, car accident, please come. His reply came in under 30 seconds. At important lunch with Charlotte. Can't just leave. Call an Uber. The nurse read it over my shoulder, her breath catching. Did he just... She started. Hayes cut in, jaw clenched. Is there anyone else we can call? I stared at the screen. An Uber. I could barely sit up without blacking out, but my father thought I should order a rideshare to make his life easier. Marcus? I croaked. Call Marcus. 20 minutes later, Marcus barreled into the ER, suit jacket soaked, face pale. He took one look at the monitors, the chest tube, the bruising, and then grabbed my phone. The thread of texts from Tyler asking about files, reprimanding me for not answering, saying, "Stop being petty, this is business," made something ugly twist in his face. "I'm going to call him," Marcus said. "Don't," I rasped. "Let him sit with his choice." My phone continued buzzing with work messages. "Where are the final files?" "Client needs updates." "Server access?" I turned it off. It was the first time I'd ever chosen myself over the company. By 6 p.m., Tyler had called 23 times. Marcus sat beside me as my chest rose unsteadily under the bandages, reading my father's escalating messages aloud. The desperation wasn't for me. It was for the files. The IT department couldn't break my encryption. The servers locked everyone out of the final designs. The board was freaking out about the penalty clause in the contract that fined us 30%, $4.5 million if files weren't submitted by 5 p.m. the next day. "Only you can legally access them," Marcus said, "and you're lying here, barely able to sit up." Tyler's voicemail shifted from angry to panicked. "Stop being childish, Caroline. This is bigger than your feelings." "You are sabotaging the company. Answer your phone. Be a professional." He had no idea I was listening from a hospital bed, scarred, stitched, and quietly doing nothing. For the first time in 5 years, I did not save him. Charlotte showed up at the hospital the next day, foundation cracked under stress, demanding my badge and passwords. "You're being terminated for dereliction of duty," she announced, trying to snatch my belongings. "On whose authority?" I asked. "Mine, as creative director." "You can't fire a senior architect," I said calmly, even as pain pulsed with every word. "Only the board, with a 2/3 vote, can do that. Check the bylaws." She sputtered, then hissed, "You think you're irreplaceable? I already have someone from Portland ready to step in." "Then have them upload the files," I smiled. She raised her hand, maybe to slap me, until the nurse stepped in and told her to leave. That afternoon, the head of building security called Marcus. Our systems were in meltdown. The board had called an emergency meeting. Charlotte had tried and failed to get my clearance revoked by the FBI guy because our project involved federal contracts. Meanwhile, Tyler recorded a video for me, sending it as if that would soften everything. In it, he said he was sorry if there was a misunderstanding, that Charlotte downplayed my injuries, and that I needed to stop punishing him for one mistake and do the right thing for the family. I deleted it without watching the end. That night, Officer Hayes came back on duty and visited my room, leaning in with a thoughtful, almost fierce expression. "I can't arrest him for being a heartless father," she said, "but I can make sure everyone sees who he really is." She told me she'd been assigned to follow up on the emergency contact failure and planned to deliver the reminder at the gala, loudly, publicly, and in uniform. "If you're going to burn a bridge like that," she added with a small smile, "you should absolutely be there to watch." On November 17th at 6 p.m., the Four Seasons Ballroom was a sparkling snow globe of wealth. Crystal chandeliers, black tuxedos, sleek gowns, clinking glasses. Through the lobby glass, I watched my father rehearse his speech about family values and building lasting legacies, while reporters set up cameras to film his big night. My ribs screamed with every step, but I'd insisted on being discharged early. Bandages strapped, painkillers swallowed, cane in hand. Marcus stayed close at my side. Inside, panic simmered behind the polished surface. Waterfront's CEO, David Chen, had given Tyler a firm deadline, and my files were still locked. Security updates from James filtered through Marcus's phone. The clients were furious, the board was spooked, the IT department was helpless. At 7:45, Charlotte grabbed the mic and plastered on a plastic smile. "We're having a small technical issue with the servers," she announced. "Please enjoy champagne while our team resolves a minor hiccup." Reporters exchanged knowing looks. David Chen checked his watch. At 7:55, he stood, ready to walk. That's when Marcus squeezed my hand and whispered, "Now." We entered the ballroom just as Officer Hayes and her partner strode toward the head table. The room fell silent, forks suspended midair. "Mr. Irwin," she said, her voice carrying easily. "I'm Officer Patricia Hayes with Seattle PD. I need to follow up with you about an emergency contact failure involving your daughter, Caroline." Tyler stiffened. "This is a private event," he tried. "This is a public safety matter," she replied. Then, in front of investors, board members, and media, she read his exact text from that day. "At important lunch with Charlotte. Can't just leave. Call an Uber." The gasp moved through the crowd like a wave. Phones shot up, recording. "Your daughter, Mr. Irwin," Hayes continued, "suffered 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a concussion. She was in critical condition when you declined to come and told her to call a rideshare instead." You could see the moment his mask cracked. Chen turned to him, disgust on his face. "You didn't think that was relevant to tell us?" he asked. Tyler stammered about miscommunication and exaggeration. That's when Hayes turned towards the entrance and said, "If you'd like to question how serious it was, you can ask her yourself." Every head turned. I stood there in a simple black dress, canes supporting me, bruises blooming across my face, stitches running along my forehead, hospital bracelet still on my wrist. For a second, you could hear nothing but the soft buzz of cameras. Then, quietly, someone at the back started clapping. I walked forward, every step a razor through my chest, but I didn't look away from my father. David Chen rounded the table, eyes scanning me, then the officers, then Tyler. "Is this your idea of leadership?" he asked my father. "Lying to clients while ignoring your bleeding daughter?" Tyler sputtered something about family privacy. Chen cut him off. "We are terminating all negotiations immediately. There's no deal." Charlotte shrieked about separating business and personal, but Chen only shook his head. "Character is business," he said. "We don't invest in people who abandon their own." The board members went white. Reporters rushed closer, and that's when my part began. I took the microphone, the projector behind me flickering to life. "My name is Caroline," I said, voice steady enough to carry. "For the last 5 years, I've been the lead architect behind nearly every major project Irwin Holdings has bragged about. This waterfront deal? Every structural calculation, every sustainability model, every design innovation was my work." Tyler tried to interrupt. "That's not accurate." I hit a button and the screen filled with emails showing him explicitly acknowledging me as lead architect, forwarding my designs to clients with, "Here's what I've come up with," stamped at the top. More files, server logs showing my account creating and editing plans at 2 a.m. while his stayed idle. Contract drafts listing my name as lead designer before revisions mysteriously removed it. "I've stayed quiet," I continued, "because he's my father, because I thought loyalty meant protecting him, because I thought one day he might finally see me. Then, 3 days ago, I was pinned in a crushed car, unable to breathe, my lung collapsing, and when I called the man whose name is on this company, he told me to call an Uber." The room was dead silent. "So, no," I said, turning to Chen. "I did not upload the files. I did not save his deal. I prioritized my life over a contract, and I would do it again." The board scrambled, but it was too late. Harrison Wells called an emergency vote right there in the ballroom. Surrounded by cameras, they removed Tyler as CEO, invoked penalty clauses that pinned the $4.5 million loss directly on him, froze company cards, and placed our head of security as interim leader. While they dismantled him piece by piece, Charlotte completely lost control. One of her ex-husbands, Robert Winters, stood up to confirm her pattern of faked crises and manipulations. She screamed, through a glass, revealed on mic that she had orchestrated every emergency to pull Tyler away from me. He was so easy to control, she laughed through tears. Wave a panic attack and he'd abandon your little events every time. Security dragged her out while her golden dress tore at the seam and her mascara streaked down her face, captured in glorious HD by every local station. Tyler sat collapsed in a chair, hands shaking, the empire his father built collapsing around him. I walked past him, placed my platinum badge on the table and said, "You're right, Dad. I am done being unprofessional. I am resigning. Effective now." Then I turned to the room and announced I'd already accepted a senior partner position at Meridian Development, Irwin's biggest rival, with equity and my name on every project I designed. My father followed me to the parking garage, collapsing to his knees on the oil-stained concrete, begging, sobbing, promising to divorce Charlotte, to make me CEO, to give me everything. "You had everything," I told him. "You had a daughter who would have done anything for you. And when I needed you once, you chose lunch." He tried to grab my dress. Marcus stepped between us. "Caroline owes you nothing," he said quietly. I got in the car and didn't look back. Over the next few days, the story detonated online. Someone had live-streamed Officer Hayes' confrontation and my speech. First, "Dad chose lunch" trended worldwide. "Billionaire tells injured daughter to call Uber from ER" became the headline on CNN, Forbes, and the New York Times. Business press shredded Tyler for terminal arrogance and negligence. A deep dive from an investigative reporter revealed a pattern of credit theft, unpaid contractors, and shady self-promotion going back years. Charlotte became a walking meme, her golden dress meltdown auto-tuned into songs, her face photoshopped into Uber logos. She tried to sell her side of the story to a tabloid. They fact-checked it and instead ran a piece titled "The Gold Digger Who Faked Emergencies for Clout." The prenup held. She walked away with nothing and ended up selling condos in Tacoma, miles away from the penthouses she used to pretend she owned. Tyler tried to do damage control with a carefully worded statement about regrettable misunderstandings, but it only made things worse. 3 major clients pulled out, the stock tanked, his board pushed him out permanently. He sold the Medina mansion to pay penalties, settlements, and the $3 million he eventually agreed to pay me in a quiet but airtight legal deal Marcus crafted. He downsized to a small apartment, lost his club memberships, and watched his name literally come down from the top of the building his father once proudly opened. People ask if I regret not saving the deal that night. I regret plenty of things. Staying quiet for 5 years while my work was stolen, accepting canceled dinners without pushing back, letting Charlotte control rooms I had built. But I do not regret that one choice in the ER. He had a choice too, and he made it in 11 words. Today, I stand in my own corner office at Meridian Development, overlooking Elliott Bay with a team that says Caroline's design without hesitation, and a CEO who introduces me as the genius behind our newest waterfront project, not my daughter who plays with computers. A plaque on my desk holds one of my mom's old quotes: "Build your own foundation, sweetheart. Never let anyone else own your blueprints." I've started a fund in her name to help young professionals fighting workplace exploitation. I speak at universities about boundaries, documentation, and why even family doesn't get to exploit you just because you share DNA. As for Tyler, he eventually checked into rehab, wrote real apologies, and asked if he could earn, not demand, his way back into my life. I agreed on strict terms and short, supervised coffees, not because he deserved a second chance, but because I deserved closure on my own terms. And that's the real lesson I want you to take from this. The accident didn't just break my ribs. It shattered the illusion that my father valued me as anything more than a tool. The text about Uber wasn't the moment he failed me. It was the moment he revealed how many times he already had. He chose lunch. I chose my life. And no matter what anyone says, that will always be the right decision. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been treated like an option by people who should have made you a priority, know this: Your worth is not defined by their blindness. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to let their choices catch up to them. You are allowed to choose yourself. If this hit home, please subscribe to daily Reddit readings. Hit that like button and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to cut off family to save yourself? I read every single one.